Most home service businesses are losing jobs and they don't even realize it. And it's simply just because when a lead inquires about getting a service done, you guys aren't responding for 10, 20, 30 minutes and sometimes even days before you can get back to that customer. So, what we're going to talk about today is how to get to that customer and be the first one to them and responding first because that's really the best way to end up winning them over. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go over a system that I've created that runs 24/7. So that way there's no chasing down the leads. You're not going to have any missed money or missed opportunities. This is all important because 78% of buyers choose to purchase from the first company that responds to their inquiry. Imagine yourself, say you need a plumber. If you're not just going to sit there and call 8 different plumbers all day to try and get like the best price usually, especially if there's like a leak or you're having an issue. You're just going to go with the first one that picks up, says they can get out there within an hour and get the problem fixed. So this is why it's very important that we, make sure that we're responding first because 78% of our customers are actually just going to go with that company that responds first. So it's the simplest thing you can do to gain more business for your home service company. Now, if you guys don't know me, my name is Sam. I'm the founder of Nexera, and Nexera is just a company that automates key sales and marketing tasks. So that way, you as a home service business owner can have less stress, lower your costs, and bring in more revenue off the same amount of work you're already doing. Now, if you guys want the exact standard operating procedures that I use to grow my own pest control business to over $1.8 million in revenue, you guys can grab that in the link below. That's what we're going to be basically covering today is the instant lead capture and response SOP. And this falls into both types of home service businesses. The way I look at it is you have your recurring service providers and then you have your project-based contractors. Now, the reason I separate these two is because they're two very different business models. Your recurring service providers are typically lower ticket, but they do a lot more volume, whereas your project-based contractors are high ticket, but they do much lower volume. So for that, these two businesses need to run on a different set of systems to be the most efficient that they can be. Now, without further ado, let's just kind of get into it here. If you guys do want these SOPs, you can find those in the link below. There's 10 different ones, and they all apply to either recurring service providers or project-based contractors, and you'll see them all listed in there. So let's get into what most home service business owners are doing right now. So we'll have a lead, they'll call in, they'll ask about a service. Typically, we're out in the field, we're dealing with employees, maybe they're messing up or we have to get on them or, we're dealing with admin stuff behind the desk or whatever it may be. We may even be on a job and, we're not going to sit there, answer the phone in front of a customer that we're doing work for because then they're going to be mad, but then we're also giving up the opportunity to bring in more business. So typically we end up just letting that call go right to voicemail. And what happens is that delays our response to, maybe 30 minutes later or even days later. And by then it's too late. So, we go back, we go ring them up after they've left their voicemail or, shot us a text, whatever they did, left a form with us. And then we try to reach out to them and they don't respond back to us. And we're just sitting there wondering, like, why isn't this lead responding? They seemed interested. What's going on? It's simply because they've probably already gone with another company. So let's break down what this customer typically does. So say let's go back to the plumber example. Let's say they need a plumber. So what they're going to do is they're going to inquire about a service. And then what they're also going to do is they're going to leave a voicemail or a form, or they're just going to call that company. And if that company doesn't answer, that's when they leave the voicemail, or they'll go on their website, see if there's a way to leave a form or an interest, some sort of thing like that. But the majority of people aren't even going to get that far. What they're going to do is they're just going to get frustrated when they don't get an immediate answer, and they just want to get this over with so that way they can go on with the rest of their day. They don't want to sit there and call different contractors or home service business owners. So what they're going to do is they're going to go to Google and they're just going to keep pecking right down this list to find the first company that's either going to respond to them or give them a price or let them know their availability. So what ends up happening is they'll finally get a company that responds. They'll book an appointment on their calendar, and then they just go about their day. They cross it off the to-do list. It's one less thing that they have to worry about, and they just move on. So now you're kind of just out of mind, especially if you were one of those first companies that they had called but didn't answer, and they've already got an appointment booked and someone's already coming out, in their mind, they're already set. They're going with this company. So that's why when you go back up and you say, okay, let me, respond to this lead an hour later, and they're not responding and you're left confused, this is why you're confused, is because they are simply just going to that next listing on Google here, and then they are just calling until they can get that appointment booked, because all they care about is checking stuff off their to-do list and not having to worry about it anymore. So this is basically the system that I've created to combat all this, so that way this doesn't happen to you anymore. And it just makes it much more simple, and you don't even need to be at your phone to do something along these lines. This could all just run in the background for you. So let's say, you have a lead that calls in, you can't get to the phone, whether it's you or an office lady, whatever it may be, nobody can get to the phone. So what happens is, instead of that just going to voicemail and just, kind of going into the abyss, we'll immediately send a text to that customer or that lead that shows that we care. So if we're responding instantly to them, they realize, okay, they probably care about my business, but they may just be in the middle of something. And we customize that text to let them know that, hey, we're busy with other customers right now, but we do value your time and we want to work with you, is basically the gist and the feel that we want our leads or customers to feel when we send that text back to them. So this goes for whether they, call in and nobody answers, or they just fill out a form, whether you're running like Facebook ads, Google ads, whatever it may be, and you're running traffic to a lead form. These both will get an instant text response that shows that, hey, we're on top of our business and we're actually eager to work with you, instead of just, not really caring and just saying like, I'll get to you when I get to you. Because right there, you're already kind of starting off on a bad foot. So what ends up happening is I set something up in our customer relationship manager, or our CRM, to capture and organize this lead in the sales pipeline. That way, when I am back at the office later, I can go in and I can take a look at this lead, see where they're at, and I can move them down the pipeline in order to get them to end up buying from us. So this just makes it really easy to organize and just stay on top of everything. A missed call can kind of just get lost in, your call log or whatever it may be. But if we list all this stuff out, it makes it much simpler for us to track this and actually end up closing it down the road. So another really nice thing that I like to have in here is just do a rep assignment. So whether that's a sales rep, myself, or an office lady, I want someone to be assigned to this lead immediately. That way, in case it falls under my radar or my office person's radar or my sales rep's radar, they will have a task set to reach back out to them if we don't hear back from them whatsoever. So that way we can still have the opportunity to serve this customer. Now, let's kind of break it up into two scenarios. Let's say they don't respond right away. Anything with them that doesn't respond, we'll send them 2 follow-ups over the next 24 hours just to make sure we stay on top of them. I typically like to send the first one within the first hour or so, just to make sure that, we're staying in front of them before they make their final purchase decision. Because typically what's going to happen is they're going to call around other companies, and those other companies still aren't even going to answer anyways, which we'll get to in a second here. So we just make sure that we're staying on top of them, not letting them go. And then let's say the lead does respond right away. That just kind of makes it a nice, easy shortcut. Get them to book an appointment on our calendar, and or speak with one of our sales staff, office staff, or yourself if you're just a solo operator. So let's go back to our example of the lead does not respond right away. So what they end up doing is they call around. They go through those listings on Google. What they find is, they're still probably not getting very far. They probably called 2-3 different companies. They probably ran into the same thing over and over, because the home services industry is notorious for not answering their phone and giving the utmost 100% customer service. So what they'll end up doing is they'll just end up responding to you, since you're the only business out of the 3 that they just called that shows a sign of life. It looks like you actually care and want their business, so they're definitely going to respond to you over just continuing to call, because they don't want to spend their whole day calling. As I said before, the most important thing for them is to cross it off their to-do list and go about their day. So the sooner they can get to that, the happier they are going to be. So that's basically why we set this up, to make sure that we're staying on top of them and responding instantly. So that way they can get to that end state that they want to be at. Now, let's say, you know, they just book an appointment with a competitor. So let's say, on the second ring, a competitor answers the phone. Now, what they're going to do, anyways, is they're still going to see, okay, what else is out there, because maybe that competitor can't get out to them until next week. Or maybe they're saying, it's $50 for us to come out and take a look and give you an estimate. So what they're going to do is they're still going to see how you stack up to competitors, since we've already reached out. So then what happens is they'll say, okay, now I got this competitor. They'll be by in 2 days, but I really need someone today. And this company texted me back. So let me see what their availability is like and see if I can book with them today. So then they book an appointment on our calendar, and that's how we are able to secure that business, even when they're going around and looking at other companies or doing whatever else that they want to do as far as their due diligence, or just getting this service taken care of. So that's basically it at a very surface level standpoint. Like I said before, if you do want the full SOPs, you can grab them here. There's 10 different ones. They apply to the recurring service providers as well as our contracts, or my project-based contractors. And it's all in the recession-proof blueprint. I know, some of you guys probably aren't feeling it yet, but I know there are some businesses that are starting to feel the economical pressure. So if this is something that, resonates with you, or you're just looking to become more efficient, if you're just looking for, even just these three things I mentioned earlier, less stress, you want to lower your cost, or you want to bring in more revenue, these SOPs that I've created within this recession-proof blueprint give you all three of these things. So it makes it super simple for you guys. If you guys have any questions or concerns, or there's something you guys want to see in the future, just drop a comment below. Until then, I'll see you guys on the next one.